We're at 1,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Many hours later.
Yo, like many hours later, I have a different shirt on, you know.
I haven't moved. I've actually just been in this spot for the last 8 hours waiting for you to come back from work.
I'm driving down to Boyle Heights to do the premiere episode of Havana Lounge. My phone gets blown up. And everything that we're just talking about here in like 10, 15 minutes, out the window.
Rod Pedersen, friend of the show.
He's at the front of the show. He could have warned us.
I would have appreciated the heads up for our record schedule that you were going to drop all this news here on 1200 TSN Ottawa. And he did too. It was 1200 and then like 1260 or 1280. I go, he did two of these interviews today.
Like, I kind of want to just say this is going to be a vulgar episode because F it. Like, what are you doing?
Man, anyway, so here we had a whole show. Paul, he's been working months getting his show ready to go. I said, we're going to get Farhan on early today. We're going to have everything ready to go. I figured it's CFL Global Draft Day. Obviously, that coverage, but I didn't feel like there would be any bombshells. And then Rod Pedersen, good friend, decided to, didn't run anything by us today, but went on the tear. And here we are.
Yeah, apparently this is all done. And so this is all done and over with. From what he said, I listened to the clip. I'm driving down to Boyle Heights. I'm listening to the clip, and it's all over. It's a merge. It's happening.
To be fair, this is Rod's personal opinion and the people he's talked to. I'm not saying he's not wrong, and I don't.
Got sources. Let's be honest. And if his sources are leading him, if the sources are blowing smoke in his way, there's a fire somewhere, and the fire isn't like us scrambling to get a new information to you. It's this.
So anyway, Rod was on today talking about, I guess the one thing is going to be, potentially September start. We're still waiting on a timeline for the CFL. We're going to talk with Farhan about that and everything else. I mean, that's all still good. We've only really ever had to do one of these aired and then fix it in post later. That was when they announced the actual XFL delay from 2021. So, it doesn't happen too often, but we have a potential delay until September. We'll find out for sure next week. The big thing I wanted to talk about on this episode now, because I think the timeline stuff we'll get to next week, is what Rod is saying about this full-on merger rule book that they have. Is that kind of where you're at?
Yeah. Pulled up the article from XFL News Hub, of course, summarizing what happened on the 1200 the drive in Ottawa. I'm tired.
I know. It's like, guys, this is really overtime. If you feel the need to subscribe at this point, but Paul and I would really appreciate it. We're doing overtime right now.
Lord's work, as Reid would say.
Lord's work.
Cliche about. It's just,
Rod believes, he says it's going to be a full-on merger. Good news is the Canadian Football League won't go away. He does think they might keep the Canadian Football League. There's going to be 18 to 19 teams. That goes in line. Again, none of this stuff is surprising to me. What's surprising is it happened today right now. We have to talk about it because not a lot of this surprises me, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Very true. And I mean, it seems like it's our luck all the time. Whenever we have something that happens, something breaks after we're done with the episode, whether it be Friday morning, something breaks and basically we're dated. Thank God this happened tonight when we were able to, I got done with work. I'm able to come home, able to record something fresh. And here we are.
So just say, hope you appreciate it.
4 downs, apparently.
4 downs. They're talking 4 downs, 15-yard end zones, 100-yard field, 65 wide. And the big thing, I guess, is the uprights in the front in the Canadian fields, leaving them where they are, and the uprights in the back for American fields. I guess that isn't the biggest change. I think aesthetically, it feels a little tight as well with the, obviously if you were to move them to the front for the American end zones. Any big takeaways?
So they're going to play in the front for Canadian and in the back it needs to be uniform.
Well, and again, this is all speculation. Again, this is just, what Rod sources are saying. But I do think that, Rod Pedersen, a friend of the show, does seem to have good sources. And so I would take this from what he's saying. Yeah, I like the idea of it being uniform, but I think the least amount of cosmetic changes you could make in the interim, I think, maybe we get to that point at some point. The 65 width of the fields, which is what it is now, is that going to be a sticking point for anybody?
No, I don't think so. I honestly think that the big thing that people are going to get pissed about is 4 downs. I really think the biggest thing people are going to get upset about is 4 downs.
And Rod seems to think that the ratio is going to be gone too. He had reported the other day that there was already talks about stepping that down to go from whatever it was, 5 players to 3 or whatever. And now because it would be hard to keep that across the board. The other quote that was interesting, because these people criticize, the reason they call for the ratio is they think that you need to have uniformity. You're worried about certain teams being overpowered. When they did the expansion in the 90s, the American and Canadian teams were 500 against each other. So there was parity in terms of talent levels back then when they tried it.
Right. And I mean, I think this just lends to more money being in. I think I probably what spurred this on was I read the article and it said that a health agency in Ottawa was saying that the earliest you get fans into the stands would be September, October. And MLSE was probably like, yeah, no, we're not playing then. And if they're not playing, then guess what? That's it. It's done.
Yeah, you have 2 teams right now. You have the Argos and Alouettes that seem to not want to be playing. They didn't push forward last year because certain teams didn't want to play. And it seems like, that was the other question brought up today was what's the point of doing the season this year if it's going to be this super truncated, we're not starting training camps till August. And then, we got to go back again. And let's say we do launch in March or April, right? So you end in November. Is that too quick of a turnaround, or do you just say scrap it and move all speed towards 2022?
I think you have to scrap it. It's too truncated at this point. You have to scrap it. And, you have the promise now that you're like, okay, we have a plan. And I think that's what they need to say April 20th is like, we have a plan. This is what our plan is. And people like Arash can suck it because basically it's us, the XFL people saving the CFL. That's what's happening. That's
going to be a hot take.
That's failed league. The twice failed league is saving the
other twice failed league. We're all failed. I mean, that's the thing I've always said on here. I'll say it today on the podcast that you're going to listen to. We all need each other in this. I really do think the XFL absolutely respects 100% the legacy of the CFL, and the CFL absolutely is going to respect the money of the XFL. So that's really where it's at. But I think that, obviously we've talked, last episode, I think Naylor knows what's going on. I think Dave Naylor is as close as anybody on the earth to knowing what's going on. And if he says that they're close to having a rule book printed, I think that is if he's hinting at that, I feel pretty good about that.
You could probably go to Vegas and bet on this happening and win some money at this point. So
yeah, and the good news is Rod seems really comfortable with it still being called a Canadian Football League, and I don't really mind that at all. I don't mind having it be the CFL Markcast. I don't mind. I think preserving the Canadian pride in the game that they love is more important than finding a name that appeals to XFL fans.
Yeah, the like you've always said that if the initials were something else the second time around, then we wouldn't be talking about twice failed league. So that's what needs to happen.
The other thing I wanted to bring up is we're talking about the names. I did a search the other day. I haven't seen, and I'm not don't quote me as being the biggest investigative journalist in the world. I haven't seen a lot of new trademarks being looked at and filed right now. I mean, I do know at least how to do cursory searches for that sort of stuff, having my business names trademarked. And I don't see anything else via Alpha, anything else. Now, obviously, they could have a new company name that they're doing all of this under, right? Because they went from Alpha whatever to Alpha Opico and all that kind of stuff. But I don't see any new sports trademarks being done right now, right? If they were close to being announcing a name or something. So I do think a CFL makes sense to me.
I agree. It's Canadian Football League, Continental Football League. I don't care. I just, I think we're all in agreement that these two leagues need each other now more than ever. And if MLSC is not wanting to play ball because they're not allowing fans back by at the latest October, then let's move on. Let's put it on pause again for another year, and let's just relaunch, CFL 3.0. And I like the idea now that you can go ahead and open up XFL to getting franchises, MLS style. You have celebrity owners of XFL teams or CFL team, whatever you want to call them. You could bring celebrity owners in like you do with MLS. I think it's a great idea. I think that's where the money comes in for Redbird, is like, you bought this league for $40 million worth of debt and everything. Now you can go and take these 9 teams and you can go, okay, you want a franchise, it's $10 million. And already you've doubled your money and then some on your initial investment. So I think that's been the play. I think that's what the deal is. So I like it. I like it a lot.
And also what I like about it the most is I think you're good with the CFL teams. I've always said this. I wouldn't write any of the XFL stuff in stone. And if they want to move teams, if they're taking the year now, and if they want to do San Antonio versus Austin, or take it from LA down to San Diego, whatever. I mean, I think a lot of XFL people, as much as we criticize CFL fans for the 3 downs, I think a lot of XFL people are like, well, the Houston Roughnecks, man, and that logo. And I've always said, I think that all that could go out the window in the blink of an eye. So anyway, I think that's good. I think we just want to make sure that we're timely enough on this. I think most of our discussion today still stands with everything else going on, and just adding this in. And again, none of this is confirmed. This is just educated speculation on Rod's part, talking to his sources, and we just wanted to make sure we included that.
Yep. So with that being said, I guess on with the show.
Yeah, we're gonna time jump back now, and there we go.
Enjoy.
Sorry,
What's up, everybody?
Sorry.
How's it going?
That was intense, but I do think that is the calling card of our show now. Is if Rod did not make it already this week, definitely. Wow, that went crazy.
Yep. Also, before I want to start the show, I want to point out my shirt I'm wearing. Had to point out the shirt that I'm wearing. It's great. It says more female, Black, Latinx, Indigenous, Asian, LGBTQ plus voices in sports. You can get yours now. megreyes.myshopify.com. Go over there, grab one of these great shirts. It benefits a bunch of different organizations to get the word out, to get more people involved in sports, more voices, more diverse voices.
I will put that in the show notes on the YouTube video, and I think that will be good. I also have my equally important, not really, Wild Aces jersey. We'll talk about that in the Fan Control Football segment later on in the show. But it's a great way to start your day when you wrap an interview with renowned Canadian journalist Farhan Lalji that's going to be coming up in the show today, and he said that we are famous in Canada. So there you go. Rod's talking about us on the show. Farhan Lalji is saying that we're famous. So I think that we are moving in the right direction. Thank you, everybody, for subscribing. We're now at like 1,100 something. We're way past whatever. If you are still interested in all this, please still subscribe. I mean, there's simply not, we don't need to stop at 1,000, but please subscribe. Paul and I are doing this for the love of all this kind of stuff. Ton of work goes in. We just got 30 minutes with Farhan coming up. We're going to do the giveaway at the end of the show today. I have all the names picked. We're going to do the giveaway. And also xflshow.com/review. We still need podcast reviews. I haven't plugged that in a couple weeks because we've been gung-ho on the subscriptions, which is great. But neither of those things cost you a penny, and it helps us out a lot because we also do not make we make pennies right now. So
pennies is saying a lot because all these digitization fees for the merchandise that because Reid's really particular about his hats. That's what's going on right now. Are you still wearing the XFL hat, by the way? Because you're wearing it backwards. I can't tell.
I have my Dragons hat on today. I ordered my Roughnecks Man, my discontinued logo jersey or hat. I was going to talk about that in the show. Still shipped from okay, backtrack. Ordered the Roughnecks Man hat because the logo got canceled, trademarks, all that stuff we covered last week. Ordered the hat, still ships from WWE headquarters.
Really?
So put your tinfoil hats on, whatever you want about the XFL. Honestly, here's what I think. and we're going to get into all the CFL stuff. Bear with us. We have a little bit of preface stuff today. I think they're still just dumping all that merch. Like, I think that WWE is handling that. I would not be surprised. I went back and forth with listener Max about this week, about the Roughnecks and would they change the name. I think they could change all the names like that and not have a blink of an eye. So I don't think anything is set in stone with anything Dragons, Roughnecks, or anything aside.
I completely agree.
So anyway, so we did the plug the giveaway. That's coming up at the end of the show. Review subscribers. Paul and I have not done any talk about the Arash feedback. We were going to save it for the podcast. I want to hear what Paul had to say. I had no idea how crazy that was going to get last week. I really didn't. I mean, I knew Arash was a big journalist and all that. Credit to him. I had no idea. So what did you think about all this stuff that came from that?
Okay, so let me digest this in a way that makes it sound like I'll admit some things. There are some things where you see us kind of pause up a little bit and kind of like digest what he's saying. But Mark said it on his podcast this week that there was some intellectual dishonesty going on, and I feel like I probably did not prepare for that as well as I could have, and I acknowledge that. I could have pointed out that I felt like there was a conflict of interest there, and there's some definite, I guess there's some definite bias to where Arash is hating on the CFL and hating on the XFL, but there's an underlying thing where, you know, he doesn't want anything to compete with something that's his bread and butter, which is Toronto Blue Jays coverage. That should have been the point. And also the other point that I've kind of neglected to bring up was arena football. And I feel bad that I didn't bring that up because despite it failing, how many years did we get? 29, 30? I mean, there were some things that like we allowed to spin. And I feel like, you know, when we look back at it a week later, get some, hindsight's 2020. We look back at it a week later, like, damn, I could have got it there. Damn, I could have got him there. Damn, I could have got him there. And I didn't want to get him. But at the same time, he's bringing up a lot of points and we're sitting there like a little bit locked up. But you can't just go into any place and go, hey, we're going to pay the bills. We got a 108-year-old league. You just can't do that. That's why they're not. That's why they didn't play football last year. That's why they're having problems this year. You can't just go and go, well, we're 108 years old. Give us a check. And it's not even. That's not even like that 108 years thing. It's like you're really about 72 years old. Really, technically 60, something like that. I'm not doing the math. I'm a journalist, but you get what I'm saying. Is like. They keep harping on paying the bills based on this 108-year-old legacy. And it's like, that doesn't pay the bills. Money pays the bills. That's all I got to say about that. I mean, there it is. Yeah, no, and it's fair. I mean, like I said, I don't think I'm fine with any of it. I think as critical as I have been with, fan control football, with, CFL, XFL, and yeah, I welcome all opinions. I really do. And so I think that, I was talking with Dorothy about this because I really had no idea all this was going to go so crazy. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not like I have no money on the XFL. Like I have no money on Spring League. I have no money on, I don't have any money on any of this stuff. And so I do think I welcome dissenting opinions of any kind as long as they're informed. Yeah, I mean, I don't like some of the intellectual dishonesty that went on, but I think it's really easy to take cheap shots. A lot of that, I think, a lot of listeners thought Arash came across really poorly. I thought a lot of listeners thought he came across very well. I mean, clearly the 3 Down Nation posted their article, unlikely hero Arash issues passionate rebuke of XFL merger talks. I shared that and I said, yeah, he trashed the XFL a lot, but there really wasn't a lot of, the CFL could use a government loan or flag football. And that was it. And so, I felt like, no side looks good in any of this. That's why I think we all need together. And I really do. I think the more that I've digested it this week with Arash, with the CFL problems, and some blatantly obvious problems that the XFL may or may not have, I think both leagues would really benefit from everybody coming together and figuring this out. I really do. Completely agree. And I just don't think that you should cut off your nose to spite your face. And I feel like Arash was kind of doing that. Like you're just like, oh, well, we don't need your money. We're gonna get this loan from the government. Are you sure? And we'll talk about that in a bit. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure?
Yeah. Anyway, that's my thoughts. I mean, I just felt like we needed, I don't want to like drag it on forever. I just felt like we did need I had no idea, Mark from XFL New South, like super
Did
pissed.
a great job. Did a great job.
It was great, but he was like, people were really, I welcome that. I'm Eric Bischoff, WCW controversy creates cash. I mean, I like people talking about the Markcast, that's kind of what I'm at. And I have no skin in any game. If I had ownership in the XFL, maybe I would take offense to it. We had one email. Well, we had a lot of emails. We had one email coming this week from Craig. I told him I would read his email on the show. He is a lifelong CFL fan. He's attended games for 50 years, and he has attended every Grey Cup in person, not as the media, as a fan since 92. He says, as part of this aging demographic, I wanted to chime in and give his perspective. He says that there's been a lot of pushback. Not all fans are close-minded. Personally, he's in favor, FOUR, of a full merger. And, he gives a lot of, his ideas about the season. But I just thought that it's good to hear some older fans. I mean, someone that's attended every game since 92 is crazy. That not everybody is close-minded. I do think sometimes that we get caught in that, like, well, the CFL is hating on, like, I think that's a vocal group, but I don't think that's all the group. Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a lot of CFL fans that will be, excited about this.
And Farhan's going to talk about that and probably why that is what it is. And he makes some very good points. That's coming up later in the show.
Yep. I'm going to open my Zoa. I ordered the sugar-free ones. This is my last one. So I had to order some sugar-free ones. And so we're going to do those. I think they're shipping now. So anyway, I'm hooked now. I'm all in.
And speaking of which, you know how we had a little issue with getting the ones you ordered for me sent to me. The other night, I got home, like 4 weeks after you ordered. I got home and there's a box on my door, and I'm like, "What is this?" I thought it was my supplements, and all of a sudden, I'm like, "Oh, there's more Zoa." It finally came. It finally showed up. So I don't know what flavor you got. Hopefully it's nothing coconut that'll kill me.
It's original, but I got refunded for that. So that means that we're up on Danny and the Rock. We're making profits on this podcast. We're up $36 or whatever. Anyway, so that's enough preface, but there's a ton of news to get to. But anyway, I just wanted to touch on all that. Thank you all.
Cool. So the CFL Global Draft is happening as we record this. Of course, it's part of the CFL 2.0 initiative. Players from Japan and Europe and Mexico and South America are going to get drafted by the CFL, of course. Each roster is mandated to have 2 global players. And then, of course, you have to deal with the ratio. So, it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of that to kind of expand the CFL as a global game.
Yeah, I will say this. So that's my little Cliff Notes. And they use a different, it's not Cliff Notes in Canada. I've noticed that. They have a different author. They call it like, it's not Spark Notes. It's not Cliff Notes. It's like, please comment in the YouTube. It's like Collins Notes or something. I've seen that a lot recently. Like, hey, give us the Collins Notes on this. That's Connor O'Neill gave me some insights on that. If you guys want really great global draft coverage, the CF Perspective podcast, he was on our show a couple weeks ago with the one with Jim Mullen. They're doing full-on blowout global coverage of that. So that's really not my speed. I'm the Zoa Wild Aces jersey guy. But if you want like really good breakdowns of the global players, go check out Connor's podcast. They're doing full coverage today on that.
Definitely. Dave Naylor coming out today on Ottawa 1200 and said there's no chance the CFL season starts on time.
Yeah, this is, and we're going to get into this. Farhan is talking about the April 19th, 20th, whatever announcement with Rosh coming up. I have a clip pulled from this. I have 2 clips, one coming up later from Naylor as well. So hopefully this works as I want.
The sport minister, Lisa McClough.
I'm going to play the clip.
Going to play the clip. Okay. Sorry.
I think the thing they've got to decide is, are we prepared to play without fans in stands at any point in the season? I don't think they want to play an entire season without fans in stands, but I don't think anybody thinks that an entire season is going to go by without that. But again, we don't know for sure. I think the thing they've got to determine, and determine soon, is, are we prepared to do that, at least for, a period of weeks? And I think what they're struggling with right now is how to give. Look, we know the season's not going to start on time. Okay, they haven't announced that, but like anybody you talk to in the league will tell you the season's not starting on time. Everyone knows that. So why haven't they announced it yet? Then I think the reason is that, and they've been saying this going back to last fall, that they did not want to sort of set the season adrift like they did a year ago. where it went on and on. It was dependent on government, and deadlines that were reported in the media came and went.
So that's kind of part of it. And he talks a lot about pain points too, like how much pain are these owners going to be willing to accept, with monetarily, right? Because basically they're going to have to, if they're not getting the money from the CFL, maybe they'll get a provisional, loans like Farhan was talking about, but the owners are going to have to supplement a lot of that money. And so that's the question, is if they're going to be willing to do that and how much pain they're going to be willing to do that.
And of course, you look at a place like Ontario in Canada, that's blowing up right now. The Thursday, they had a new single high report. They had like 4,700 cases. I don't know if this is probably last Thursday. This article is a little bit dated, but last Thursday, I don't know what.
No, this is brand new stuff to that. This came out.
So Thursday, they had a new single day high of 4,736 cases in Ontario, and that's just, they got to get it under control, and that's another thing that has to be put into play, is like they're starting to get some vaccines from us. Like you're starting to see people like Rod Pedersen, got his vaccine done. He posted that sticker. We're glad to see he's getting his vaccine. Jim Mullen also got his vaccine done. He had the AstraZeneca, so I told him, be careful. I hope everything's okay with that. So they're starting to get some vaccines up there, starting to get it distributed. So hopefully this case count will come down and we don't have to worry about this much more. But Lisa McLeod from the Ontario Sports Ministry Office was blunt and honest. She's not given the green light for the CFL to return to play in the province at all whatsoever until this gets under control.
Yeah, and this is that's why there was just a little confusion between Paul and I. Like, I just added this morning. Like, this just came out from 3 Down Nation. So, we're getting close to the end of March. I think it's very clear that the health conditions across are not at a place where we can sign off for a return to play. So, like Paul said, 4,000 whatever cases today. At 400,000 in the province that the pandemic began. So really scary stuff with all the pandemic, whatever. But yeah, that's new as of today. I mean, we're recording this a little bit earlier in the day, so hopefully nothing goes too crazy. But it's a lot of news still coming out even this morning.
According to a source, Ottawa will not provide the CFL with an interest-free loan in 2021. Dave Naylor saying that's not that big of a deal. It was an option. It's not the only option. And Farhan's going to touch on that a little bit later with his talk. A source familiar with the discussion said they said basically neither the league nor federal government have revealed the nature of the discussions in regards to this loan. The CFL unveiled a full 18-game schedule for all 9 teams last November. That's slated to begin June 10th. But of course, that's probably not going to happen now with case counts growing and growing and growing. And we're going to hear more about that probably after this gets launched, and we'll hear more about it, and we'll have to cover it next week.
Yeah, and Arash came out this week, I guess, friend of the show, Arash Madani, saying circle April 19th. Farhan feels like it's the 20th. We're going to talk about that in his interview coming up, because that's the federal calendar or whatever is the books are going to close that day. It's not looking good for that. And it is interesting because I asked Connor about this and I asked Braden too, and Braden didn't get back to me. Connor did. I'm like, why are we still doing this global draft right now? Like, all this stuff's going on. It is, and we touched on this last week too, that it does seem like it's like business as usual, but then also like, we don't know if we're going to start right now. And so it's a little interesting. I will say the CFL global draft, not a lot of coverage on it. It's basically just like on the CFL Twitter. And I said, that's basically how the XFL did their drafts last time. So really, both of these leagues are like really simpatico from the beginning. Like neither one knows how to cover their drafts appropriately.
And something that FCF did right was they put it on Twitch. So maybe the CFL could take a note there.
Maybe Sarab is on to something, putting this stuff on.
It's on to one thing at least.
On to one thing.
But
I am joking about that, but not that. Like there was a lot of criticisms about the XFL with the draft, and like really not like, hey, could you at least put the stuff on YouTube and have like 2 guys at a booth talking about it? I mean, not real expensive stuff. And here's the CFL, and I know it's not the main draft, but still like. We're trying to generate, interest in this league. I would do something besides, just doing it on Twitter. But that's just me.
And to Arash's point about the CFL commissioner's office, the administration looking for that silver bullet. This is part of those silver bullets that they're looking for as this global draft. Let's call it what it is, and maybe this will work this time. Who knows?
Yeah. The Players Association sent out a note. Mark Perry, our father over at News Hub, basically it was dubbed as "Don't quit your day jobs." It said they sent out the following note, encouraging players not to make any changes that would affect their current income streams or risk the employment they have now. That is not good.
That's going to lead to more retirements.
Yeah.
I've been watching the retirement wire for the last week. And a lot of players that, you would think have some years in them are just walking away from the game.
Well, you've had a year and a half off now to get a job, right? I mean, that'd be a long, it's one thing if you're like, okay, I got a 6 months job in between seasons. But now, I mean, if you have employment somewhere and you might not be starting until July or August, are you really going to be quitting that job for a 3-month season?
No.
I mean, that's the worry thing here is if they do play, the number of players that are still going to be accessible is scary to me, at least thinking about it and trying to do the numbers.
And again, going back to the ratio thing is like, how do they fill those roster spots in case, they're low on the ratio? How do they fill those spots? Now that's another question that needs to be brought up.
Yeah. I want to get Glenn Suter on the podcast. That's going to be my next goal. We had Farhan on today. He's phenomenal. Glenn is a TSN analyst, and he is very frustrated with the lack of communication from the CFL. And his quote that I pulled is, you don't have to break news every Monday in your press conference, but you have to be communicating, to be out there filling the void. Listen, we've talked to the Alberta medical professionals. We're doing good things so far. Nothing new to report, but we're getting closer. Something that just... The idea that, and he was saying basically like the CFL has been so closed-lipped for so many years because it's so hard to get like all 9 teams all on the same thing. You got owners here, you got owners there, you got all these different cultures. And he's saying like, yeah, in normal years, it's totally fine. Okay, secrecy and NDAs and all this stuff. But like right now, we really got to know what's going on. Like this really is okay. And this goes back to my thing before, CFL fans or XFL, we can't have, it's got to be 110 yards. It can't be like, these are extraordinary circumstances here across the board for everything. We're watching movie theaters close, malls close, all this crap going on. Like, I think it's okay to like have some news come out when you aren't normally used to doing that.
Dave Campbell tweeting, Ryan King confirming he will remain on the executive board of the CFL-PA, says we're certain that the Players Association and CFL are in communication and continue to work towards a 2021 season.
Yeah, Dave's doing the work. Dave's optimistic too. Dave's optimistic. Rod Pedersen, not so much. Farhan, you'll hear what he thinks. He gives his percentages in the interview, but a lot of mixed questions right now about what's going to happen this year. And I'm terrified if the CFL season doesn't happen for everybody. The players. I know like Matt Mangle was on a couple weeks ago. Here's guys. These are real players that are like, what am I doing with my life here? What am I doing? Am I going to have a place to go? It's really, really terrifying. I want to break down this Dan Barnes thing because it looks a little daunting, but this is really interesting. And this goes back to our conversation last week with the Rosh, with the USFL and all that kind of stuff. So Dan Barnes, he's a reporter on Twitter, and he recounted this story this week. And this is kind of gives you some insights into the CFL and kind of like how they're playing ball and how maybe they don't have the money to play ball all the time. So Doug Mitchell is a member of the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. He was their 6th commissioner. He served 5 years in the 80s. He says he's not concerned that the league is currently talking to XFL ownership. As he remembers, he took a call from the USFL, which folded prior to the 1986 season. At one time, we had the USFL approach me about 4 of the teams joining the CFL. One of the funny moments, which they didn't think was funny, they said, we've got 4 strong teams. And I said, what would you want to do with the CFL? They said every time a league starts down here, it folds. But you've been in business for 95 years. Sounds familiar, right? As we're dealing with now with the XFL and the CFL. He says, you've been in business for 95 years. You have stability. But he said, you have one condition. We have 4 teams with money. If we could join up with you, every one of your teams would have to put up $100 million letter of credit. My only answer was, does this have to be from a bank? Because we don't have the money to play in that kind of ball.
Well, that's interesting.
So it's just, so I did a terrible job of reading that, but basically the USFL with the CFL back in the 80s is not dissimilar from the XFL now, where it's like, hey, we have these teams, they could be successful. You guys have been in business for 95 years. This was in the 80s. Now we're 110 years. And, let's figure out a way to work together. And at the time, the answer from the CFL commissioner was, we don't have the money to bring that on. Like, we can't support that. So we don't have a place for you.
I mean, you're talking about, we talk about TV deals and stuff like that. And back in 1980s, $100 million back in the 1980s is like what? I think we did the math. It's like $250 million now. And you're asking 9 teams to put that up. What billion is that? That's almost $2 billion. Like, no way, man. No way, man. And it makes me feel like that $100 million letter of credit was more because the USFL was in trouble. I know they say they had 4 teams that had money, but I kind of tend to believe that all the teams were in trouble, not just, the teams that outside the 4 teams. And, Brian Woods talked about how ESPN was going to give him a great TV deal if they stayed in the spring. So, Arash, listen to the whole podcast. Basically, that's, that it just seems like all the USFL was in trouble.
I just thought it was interesting that it's like history repeating itself. So here we had, we talked with Brian about it. We talked with Arash. Here, Dan Barnes came out with the story that, this has not been a weird thing for, some of the teams in the U.S. to talk with this. We have some insights with Rod coming up later. I just thought that was interesting. One other just quick note about CFL management, just for you and anybody that's not familiar with the CFL as much as the XFL. The CFL has had 8 commissioners since 2000. Averaging out to 1 new commissioner it's about every 3 years. And so to put that in retrospect, NHL average commissioner length, 28 years, NBA 18 years, NFL 16. CFL has a 3-year average commissioner lifespan.
That's nuts. When you look at like NCAA conference commissioners, they get about 6, 7 years, 8 years. And the CFL, if they're constantly switching out commissioners, it doesn't seem like they're giving a commissioner enough time to get their initiatives in play to grow the game. That's what that reads to me as like. They want results now. And then there's some people that want different results, and they think, doing things the same way and relying on, built in. It just seems like, I know the commissioner works for the owners in every sport. Like, the owners hire the commissioner. I think they should give a commissioner a little bit more time to let their view play out, and maybe they can grow the sport.
There was a good stat, right, that I found. Yeah, I think that's an interesting stat. I found some tidbits this week. These are, I get the headlines, but I got a couple little tidbits here. So that's kind of my thoughts on and my notes on the CFL plane right now. Obviously, we're going to go to Farhan here in a minute. Do we want to? I've got CFL-XFL merger talk now, so I don't know. Do we want to take a break? Do we want to We'll take a break real quick. We'll take a break, and then we'll go into CFL-XFL merger stuff, and then we'll go into Farhan after that.
And we're back. Dave Naylor tweeting. If I was to guess right now, we're looking at more of a 2023 play. I would be surprised if the XFL and the CFL venture merger is a go for 2022, but he thinks it's going to happen in 2023. Looks like it's going to happen there.
Yeah, because there's been a lot of questions, right? If the CFL plays this year, are we doing one season? Are we going in 2022? Can the XFL really take off another year? In that same clip from earlier on the Ottawa 1200, Dave had this to say, and just to kind of set the stage, I know we kind of know this as XFL. We've been, we're the XFL media. What do we cover? But this is just to give you some perspective of like kind of the Redbird behind the scenes kind of how they work. And hopefully this clip works.
So that's one thing. And then if you look at the last incarnation of the XFL, and I know it's different because it's different ownership and things like that, but their last coach was hired about 10 months before their kickoff. Well, do the math right now. If we're going to play if CFL-XFL, we're going to play in March next year, we're 11 months away. You think they're going to have 8 coaches hired within a month? I don't think so. And that doesn't mean they have to. I'm just showing, just based on the way the timeline that was rolled out for the XFL last time, it was not a hurried venture. And I don't know, everything I know about, I've been just doing a little digging into Jerry Cardinal and Alex Shiner, the people that run the Redbird Capital. And if you look at kind of their ventures, they're very calculated. I mean, they said they did, 4 years of research on European soccer teams, of 9 leagues in 13 countries and 80 clubs before they bought one. That doesn't sound like a group of people that want to sort of, do something in a hurried manner. So
I mean, because we talk about that. Hey, look, they bought, they invested in Fenway and all these other properties, and they are a slow, methodical, company that wants to make money in the investments they have. And so I'm terrified if we have to wait to 2023. I always thought we were terrified when it was going to be episode like 79 before we were going to do the XFL next year.
And that goes to show you that I think Dave Naylor echoes what we were saying. Arash was like, oh, if it's $20 million, they pay, $39 million for this league with crusty helmets and blah, blah, blah. Then they just lose $39 million. It's like, they're not going to just throw money at something they don't think is going to work. They just don't do that.
Yeah, I'm terrified. I'm terrified if we don't go this year. We got to have CFL this year. I mean, I can't be and not that the spring league isn't going to be a wonderful alternative either, but I can't be the TSL heavy. We got to have something here to cover. I'm very terrified about that. I saw this week, 13th Man, it's like a Canadian podcast. They tweeted, they're like, we're done. Like they don't feel good on this season. And they're like, we're done. We got nothing to talk about. And I thought, wow, that is really terrifying. Friend of the show, Rod Pedersen, I think there's going to be some news coming out, but he had posted last weekend, really about this MLS. I can never say that, and neither can Mark Perry on his podcast. MSLE, Maple Leaf Sports.
MLS. You have to think Maple Leafs.
Maple Leafs Sports Entertainment. Basically how we talked about this last week, how they're really wagging the dog on this, and that, Rod said, one unimpeachable source told me the moment the MLSE realized it's impossible to turn a profit with the Argonauts roughly 2 years ago, they immediately turned their attentions into blowing up the CFL and turning it into a profit-making venture.
Yeah, I heard it. I heard it. And Rod was kind of alluding to it. He was kind of hinting at it for about a week and a half, where he's like, source was telling him that MLSE is behind everything. And you look at the other properties that MLSE has. The Raptors, say what you will about shortened season. Some people will say the Raptors are still the defending champions. The Lakers are not really the defending champions. You have Toronto FC, who's played in, 3 of the last 5 MLS Cups. You have the Maple Leafs, all profitable, all super profitable. Then you have this one property that's not kind of pulling its weight. That's kind of draining from the other 3. So, of course, they're looking at that. They're looking at their other properties and going, well, these things bring in a ton of money. We need this to bring in a ton of money. And the only way we bring in a ton of money with this is if we get people south of the border to watch the product and fill in that spring football gap. They see, and that's the point, they see the potential of spring football. Otherwise, they'd be like, oh, well, I guess we'll just sell the team. But they see the potential of spring football. So, I think it appears that MLSE's on board.
It's interesting, to give the devil his credit, to give Arash a little credit. He said, you don't get into spring football. It's not unless you're the NFL, right? It's kind of a losing money venture, right? And here's MLSE, getting in with the Argonauts, realizing 2 years ago, like, we can't make money in this, the way this league is run, right? And so, we talked about the Blue Bombers reported their loss of $10 million, a couple weeks ago. It does seem like, we talk about the 108 years, but where it has been a little bit limping along on some of these franchises, bolstering some of the other ones. And you wonder, I do think it's kind of an all in at this point where the pandemic got us to this point, potentially 2 years without playing CFL. Like, we got to figure out something here. They really shown the holes that were in kind of the foundation that was going on. So
completely agree. And also, this was funny. I saw this and I was laughing my butt off. TSN 1050 radio forgets the Toronto Argonauts in their 10-year anniversary tweet. They showed every single other Toronto franchise and then showed Tom Brady. Does Tom Brady play for the Argonauts?
Also, he plays in Tampa, which is like could not be further away from
Toronto. I mean, it could be if we were talking about Vancouver. Opposite corners. Yeah.
But I mean, that came out, and I credit Rod and CFL Reddit, Braden, and a lot of the internet, because that came out, I guess, Wednesday, and it just went crazy. Or was it Tuesday when it came out? And crazy to not have that. And they said, like, I don't even think it's intentional. Like, it's an oversight. But I'm like, how do you do that? How do you have the football team? Like, how do you do that?
Like I said in A History of Violence, how do you F that up? It doesn't say F, but come on. All right. Farhan Lalji coming up after the break. We'll talk to him about his thoughts on the merger, CFL, what they're going to do this year. All coming up right after this.
And I have a rant coming here before we do this. Is to stick you tuned to after Farhan. If you're thinking about dropping off, I got a Reid rant coming up.
All right. Want to welcome Farhan Lalji. Sorry about that little stumble there. It's early in the morning. Want to welcome from TSN, joining us to talk about the CFL. How you doing this morning?
I'm good. Paul, Reid, thanks for bringing me on.
We appreciate it. It's big to have you on here to talk about this thing that's going on. That's kind of blown up our podcast recently. And we just kind of want to gauge everyone's opinion, basically.
Well, there's certainly a lot of opinion about the XFL and the CFL here in Canada, the necessity for it, at what cost it's going to come. And I'm certainly on the side of it being a good thing. I think they need to explore it. I certainly believe a lot in Redbird and The Rock and Danny Garcia, regardless of what the history of spring football or non-NFL NCAA football has been in the U.S. I just don't believe that because it hasn't worked before that it can never work again. Too many people want to just look at the situation and say it'll never be the NFL. Well, yeah, for sure. It's not going to be the NFL, but it can still be pretty profitable and successful and exciting and new. And I think that's what the Canadian Football League needs.
Yeah, it's crazy right now because we have really two sides to the story. There's the whole merger thing, what's happening. And then now, I mean, even coming out this morning with Naylor's reports and stuff, are we happening this year? I know Arash reported the other day that, April 19th, we might be hearing a postponement. Where are you kind of in your thoughts on everything happening right now with the timeline?
Yeah, Dave and I just finished up and have an update on it. We expect there to be an announcement on the 20th, and that's because the federal budget up here is released on the 19th. And I think there's going to be some wage subsidy clarity, some clarity on programs around wage subsidy and how that might impact the league. So the presidents, the owners, the governors, they're meeting all this week. And, I think we're going to get an announcement on the 20th or shortly thereafter that there is going to be a delay. Do I think the season is going to happen? I absolutely think the season is going to happen. And one of the reasons it's taken this long for the league to basically make that announcement, I think, is because they want to, they don't want to have an open-ended announcement. They don't want to come out and say, okay, well, we're delayed. And that's it. Because I think that's going to create a lot of apathy amongst fans, other stakeholders, and most importantly, players. Because if I'm a player, look, I've had players texting me saying, what should I do? I've just had a job offer. Should I take it or not? Like, how confident are you that we're going to wind up playing? And I'm confident that we're going to wind up playing. So I think the league wants to be able to say more than simply there's going to be a delay. Now, does that mean they're going to say, absolutely, July 1st, we're starting 100%? No, they can't do that because there is no 100% when it comes to the virus. They're close to getting their safety protocols approved. We've got to get that done. But I think, you might see a bit more of a hard commitment to play. You might see some other targeted dates that, look, we'd like to get started by this date because they've been reluctant to do that. Because if you do that, now all of a sudden you're forced to deal with it and there's more pressure. So I do think we're going to play. I think we're going to get some more clarity on that in the middle of next week. And a lot of work is being done this week to be able to iron out what that's going to look like.
Yeah, because there has been, and what we're trying to do on here is be the most informed that we can. And because I see a lot of people tweeting at us now, other people, well, if they know.
You guys are famous in Canada now, Reid. You're a big deal up here now. Both you guys.
After our big duel last week, it was, I didn't know. But, because there has been like, well, if they know it's going to be delayed, why don't they just say it now? But what you're saying is they're trying to get all their ducks in a row on the back end, and that is why they're taking this extra time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the league has been criticized a lot for a lack of communication. And I get it, right? I mean, if I'm a player, I want to know. The challenge is that I think this league on some levels is being held to a bit of a higher standard than some of the other leagues. And I say that because if you look around at the National Hockey League, like it was weeks before they started that they said we were starting. You look at the National Football League, the same thing. I mean, we were into training camp period when they finally made their decisions, and they were still going through it. I mean, Major League Baseball, when you look at how close those other leagues were to creating clarity and finality, it was these types of timelines. The difference is that none of those leagues miss time. And I think that the finances, the economics around those leagues are so large, I just don't believe fans at any point thought there was a chance there wouldn't be a season. Whereas now here we missed a season. So I think people are a little more worried. I think the economics of the CFL are a little more fragile and tenuous. So I get why people are concerned. So are you going to get 100% ironclad in the way of a guarantee when they finally make an announcement? No, but I do think they're going to go and offer a little more than simply to say we're delayed, right? Because I don't think that's going to be good for anybody. So could the league be a bit more transparent and communicate more? Yes, but I think because of the fluidity of the virus, it's been difficult to offer guarantees. So they've just chosen not to pin themselves down and back themselves into a corner.
That makes sense. And of course, you know, you touched on it, where the reason why people are feeling the trepidation behind this is because you didn't have a season at all last year. So like, we can't go 2 seasons without this football league. We have to do something. So that makes sense. I wanted to touch on the financing thing. I know it came out that there was a no interest loan denied by the government. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the end of the road, right?
Well, I think in terms of making a decision on playing in 2021, it is the end of the road, right? And that's not to say government might never help, but you know, we've known for a while that these two sides have really not stopped talking since last August. And you know, have they been talking more of late? You know, a little bit more, but not significantly more. And talking to stakeholders around the league, I don't think they've ever felt like or in the last few months since cancellation, that 2021 was going to hinge on a government bailout. So yes, they've been talking. I'm not sure that's really news. And the fact that they're not going to help, I'm not sure is really news, because I don't think the league ever expected it. So could the government step in down the road and offer some additional assistance to what the current wage subsidies that everybody's eligible for, that all businesses could get? Could they potentially get more? It's possible. But this is the same type of ask that was ultimately turned down in August. I mean, the league wanted an interest-free $30 million loan, and many people believe that they were expecting that loan would eventually be forgiven. But you know, none of that is happening in the short term. So when they go through their process this week and into next week's budget, and then eventually next week's announcement, I don't think any kind of government subsidy is going to factor into those decisions. Now, that said, I do think that there are asks of provincial governments and local governments, right? So, so those governments, I think, which have a bit more of a direct tie-in to the league, you know, some of them have direct financing arrangements as far as their stadiums are concerned and things of that nature. You know, do I see teams in constant dialogue with those levels of government asking for some assistance? Yes. Do I think a lot of that's going to come? I do. Do I think it's an equivalent of 30 million? I don't. But I do think there is going to be some government help along the way here to get things moving forward.
And it's definitely not a situation where it's like government assistance couldn't come with interest attached to it too. That might be on the table.
Yeah, you know, and if you're some businesses, I don't know that you want that, right? I mean, because we do have some large businesses here. So if you are going to take a loan and it's going to be at a rate that's not necessarily favorable than what you could get individually, you know, and so look, I'm certainly of the opinion that when the league asks for these, you know, I do believe that at some point there's a thought that it'll probably be forgiven and the loan essentially will become a grant. You know, and I'm not saying that's how it's been presented, but I do get the sense that, that's kind of the hope, because these business entities, if it was really about a loan bearing interest, they could get that on their own. They don't need the government to sign off on a loan for that.
Well, I appreciate the insights on that, because, we see that come out and it's like, CFL denied loan, right? And people are like, okay, well, that's it, that's it, or that's in line. So, I appreciate the insights on that, because we do try to, spoiler, the title of this episode is going to be like, debunking rumors, this is not clickbait, just because there's been a lot of stuff going on lately. Yeah. So my question for you, assuming we play this year and this goes, whether it's a start in June or July, as someone that covers the league, knowing that this merger is on the back burner, right? It's like Game of Thrones, winter is coming, right? How do you handle that and covering the league as it sits now?
Well, I think there's a lot of different approaches people in the media up here have taken, because, flag wave and go like this the way Americans do, and chant USA, USA all the time. But, and I'm not saying media members in the U.S. do that, but certainly, Americans are more patriotic. But when it comes to the Canadian Football League, I think the media that cover the league are fans of the league, and myself included. We can't deny that. There's a mom and pop nature to this league where it draws us closer to it, and we feel invested in the league's success. Now, what does that investment look like? So some people believe that Canadian football, the rules and traditions are the most important, and they want to defend that, and they want to, be angry at the notion that we could potentially lose some of that. Now, I'm a little bit different. I want a league to cover in 10 years. And I'm a football guy first and foremost, right? So I've coached high school football for 32 years. I'm truly invested in the game. And for me, I want football to be played. And I don't view football as 3 downs or 4 downs or big field or small field or 11 men or 12 men. I view it as blocking and tackling. And I want kids to play this game for a long time. So for me, I don't care if it's 10 downs. I don't care if it's 6 players. Like, I just want football played at a professional level that we can cover and that kids can watch and we can feel, see, and touch. So for me, I do believe from everybody I've talked to, can I sit here and tell you that I've seen the books of the British Columbia Lions, the closest team in my backyards, and looked at their financial statements? I haven't. But I've certainly been around it enough that, in the 90s, I was here when payroll arrived one week in a brown paper bag. Like, I was at the Lions offices when that actually happened. I was there when players used to sprint to the bank the second the checks came because they wanted to make sure their checks cashed. Now, that was 25 years ago. That was a different league. But I've seen the comings and goings enough, as have many of the media that are kind of on the other side of how they want to portray all of this. So I do believe the financial concerns are real. Now, there are people who believe that, it shouldn't be about making money. It should be about the greater good. Well, I just don't think you can legitimately say that to businessmen. Now, we've got 3 community-owned teams here. We've got 6 privately owned teams. If all 9 teams were community-owned, you could make that case that, hey, look, we should just be trying to break even and preserve our cultural institution. I just don't think when you've got people who are wired to make money that you should have that expectation of them. So if they think that this is going to create a much greater revenue stream, I certainly believe it. And it's not that I believe them. It's just that I believe I have a sense of what the economics of the country are and where we're at financially and where the league resonates, because there is a gap in terms of people who are really excited about this league and people who are kind of, they're younger and they've kind of gone past it and they're a little bit tired. And if some of the brand possibilities and gaming possibilities that the XFL can provide are real, then I think you should pursue that. And I don't want like one extra player and one extra down to determine whether or not we pursue that.
That's a fair point. You just touched on it, getting the younger people involved in watching the games and stuff like that. We've discussed it numerous times. I want an app on my phone. I could watch CFL highlights. I want, possibly a subscription service. I don't necessarily have the network that airs CFL games. And I think that's a situation you have to look at. How else can you grow this sport if a merger doesn't happen?
Well, it's a good question, because I think that one of the things Randy Ambrosi, who's the commissioner, came in on was a platform of trying to have a bigger pie, right? We can't try to get a bigger slice of the same pie. We need to grow the pie. And that's why the CFL 2.0 initiative and trying to get global was important. And I don't think the thinking behind that is flawed. You can debate the execution of it. You can debate whether or not we've got enough money to initiate a program like that. But, certainly the governors have bought in. And I think it makes sense that you need to find a way. You've got 3 cultural centers here in Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver that are, as international cities, as international a city times 3 as anywhere in the world, right? I mean, you go walk the streets in Vancouver and Montreal and Toronto, it is a complete global melting pot, and in the United States, you go to some places and there are, you can identify it to 3 ethnic backgrounds. You come here and it's everything. Like, it is everything. And so if you can find a way to get fans that are, from a different cultural background to connect and engage with this game, then you do that. If you can find a way to make this league relevant in other parts of the world, then I think you do that. The challenge the CFL is going to have, it's not a flawed premise. it just might be that the NFL might be ahead of him in that area. I mean, I just watched the Florida Pro Day last week, and there were, 4 big-time European athletes that were part of the NFL International Pathways program that came. Even the NFL gets it, that the game's going global, and we need to kind of go in that direction. So I think the thought of trying to create a bigger pie is a good one. I think gambling, and once the legislation gets passed up here to increase that, I think that's a good one. People talk about 3 downs and 4 downs and how kids engage with this game. Here's how kids engage with this game: Madden. I got a 12-year-old son, and he used to. I would take him to the BC Lions practices from the time he was 5 years old. He used to throw footballs with Hall of Famers, right, on the sideline. Like, if ever a kid was engaged with this league, it's that kid. And yet, his heroes are, Patrick Mahomes and others. And yeah, those guys are great players. But like, I think a lot of their engagement is Madden. Now, the CFL has looked at trying to, develop a video game, and there's a cost benefit analysis there. And, I just don't think they've been in a position to invest. But there's a number of different ways that you can grow the game. And I think that's what the CFL is looking at when they see Redbird and when they see The Rock, and they just think that some of those entities, forget the XFL. We're talking about the people who are potentially going to own the XFL. Some of the things that they have done, that they just might be farther ahead. They just might be more equipped, and just they understand how to do it. And I think that's what appeals to the governors up here to try to pursue every opportunity here with collaborating.
Speaking of XFL and ownership and Redbird, we had Arash Madani on last week. Did not have the kindest things to say about XFL. To be mild. What are your thoughts on this? Did you have any past experience? Watching the league back in 2019, 2020, and what are your thoughts and any of that sort of stuff?
Yeah, you know what? I was surprised at how it was talked about. Right. So number one. Okay, it's 5 weeks. If you want to take the 5 weeks that ended with COVID and throw it in the scrap heap with every other failed attempt, that's on you. I just want to look at things differently. So when I looked at it, I'll be honest with you, I was that guy that wanted to roll his eyes because I want the CFL to be important, and I don't want to lose players to the XFL. I mean, you're going to lose players to the NFL. But when I went into it, I'll be honest, I went into it with a somewhat jaundiced eye, almost kind of expecting, ready, and kind of hoping that, I hope this doesn't work, because I want the CFL to be where all the next best coaches and players go to. I don't want to see a talent drain like we see in so many other industries to the second best league in America as opposed to the first best league. I was surprised. And, when people talk about the fact that they didn't get a lot of money on their TV deal, here's what they did get. They got some actual credibility and traction, because I watched how that league was covered, and I watched how the ESPN talent covered the league because it was on ESPN, and they viewed it like a legitimate entity. They talked about it like a legitimate entity. It wasn't constantly being talked about like a startup or a freak show or an accident waiting to happen. They talked about it like football. They talked about the players. And I thought, wow, if that continues over time, this is going to matter. So, when my friend Steve Levy is doing play-by-play of the game, and he's doing the research and prep before that, he's going to think about those players in that game differently. I read about it in The Athletic, and it was covered like a legitimate entity. And I think those things matter, as you roll that out over time. And really the ratings for the league in week 5 before it went away were good. I'm close to the Seattle market. The fans were into it. And you looked in St. Louis, the fans were into it. Yeah, there were some others where it was bad. I get it. But it's not always going to be about that, because if you can build the brand, some of those fans will come. The gambling interest will come. There's other things that can come. And here's my example. MLS, right? Will any kind of CFL-XFL collaboration turn into the NFL? No chance. But look at the MLS, right? MLS might be 5th tier, if that, in terms of worldwide soccer, right? I mean, this is not the Premiership, and it's not close to the Premiership, right? It's not La Liga. It's not, the Serie A. It's not those leagues. It's somewhere down the totem pole, yet it's profitable. Now, the television money the XFL brings in is minimal. The ratings are minimal, but yet they've somehow found a way through all of that with their brand placement and other promotional opportunities in and around that and what TV affords them, that the franchise value around an MLS team is $350 million. You know what the franchise value is for a CFL team? Barely that, right? Like it's crazy. So you can't look at that and say it's not working as a second tier product, right? Because the product in the CFL is very, very good. People look at the CFL and they think, wow, the haters up here just hate it based on salaries. These guys make 5 to 10% of what an NFL player makes, but they're 90 to 95% as good as an NFL player. So I think it's good. And when I looked at the XFL as an idea, I expected to see XFL 2001, that where Vince McMahon did make it an offshoot of wrestling, and it was stupidity. It wasn't that this time around. So the way the league got talked about, and me viewing it as kind of can it get to an MLS level? I think that's realistic.
You talked about player salaries, and that's been one of the things that we've definitely stuck on, is like we definitely feel these players deserve a lot more than they're making right now. And we've had discussions where we're talking about the TV deals and stuff like that. I have to put this out there. How do you get a better TV deal for this product and pay the?
Well, you can't in Canada, right? I mean, when the CFL TV deal was signed, it was lauded as a very good television deal here. But now there's a lack of money, so now people want to focus on the television deal. And I get it. I work for the company, so I'm not going to sit here and trash my own employer. That would be smart business, and you guys wouldn't expect that. But the truth is, when that deal was signed, you talk to people around the league, and they thought this is fantastic because now, at the very least, the salary caps are paid for. Like, there was enough money coming in that the salary caps for every team was paid for. And that was important. And ultimately, this comes down to economies of scale, right? And you look at where it is relative to, just our size of population. And, I think these things are a reflection of, where we are as a country economically. Because I'll tell you, if there were a myriad of networks that wanted to bid and drive the price up, price would have gone up, right? But ultimately, that was what the market bared at that time. And at the time, it was viewed as a very good deal. And I still think it is, again, relative to
viewership,
the economics around the country and viewership and things like that. I think it's the right number.
I was laughing. I texted Paul here on the private chat. If we didn't have our episode title already, I would have the XFL is not a freak show.
Think about He Hate Me and those things back in 2021, and they would do a race to center field instead of a coin toss. Like, that was craziness. The cheerleaders in the hot tub on the sideline, like, it was foolishness. At least these guys this time around, they tried to make it a credible product. They did market research. They adjusted rules, some for safety, some for entertainment, but all of it still kept the fundamental credibility of the fact this is football first, right? Oliver Luck didn't go out and try to just, make this a sideshow. It was actual football. So, I thought it was good.
Yeah, you touched on that XFL 2001. I remember there was like a marketing thing they tried where they were like making kind of like an old school wrestling beef between Jesse Ventura and one of the coaches, and it was ridiculous. And I think it turned a lot of people off. Like, this is just wrestling with football now at this point. So, I'm glad you're bringing that kind of stuff up.
Yeah, it's important. Like I said, the credibility of it mattered. The coaches they got involved mattered. I think the biggest downside to what I saw a year ago at the XFL is I think the quarterback play was really average. I do, but I think it's a more difficult game to quarterback in than the Canadian game, right? And that's been brought up by other journalists here as well, because the windows are just so much tighter, right? I mean, the CFL game, when you're throwing that wide side corner ball where you can just kind of put it into a spot, yeah, there's an art to it, but it's a much more forgiving play than trying to, throw a cover two fade ball where it's got to be a low trajectory and you've got to get it there before the safety can get over or the receiver's going to get his head taken off. So I think, being a quarterback in the American game presents its challenges. And I think that the quarterback play in the XFL was kind of ordinary, but I do think that can get better. It was just year one. But beyond that, it was football. I liked what they did with the kickoffs, and moving the players down where they wanted to keep kickoffs in the game, but still wanted to respect the safety element of where special teams were going. There were some creative things that they approached in an analytical way. And I think the NFL looked at a lot of that stuff and thought, hey, how can we implement some of this?
I do have to play devil's advocate, though, on that situation where we look at people that have gone to the NFL from the XFL, and you've got a Taylor Heineke, you've got a PJ.
Yeah.
So some of those quarterbacks, you say they're ordinary, but they are making NFL rosters, and Taylor Heineke does have a $4 million deal. So that needs to be, That needs to be put
No,
up.
that's fair. Look, and I loved what he did at the end of the season when they needed to go to him, and that's really what it comes down to. And honestly, like Paul, you make a great point, and that so much of it is timing, right? And you see a guy and you give him an opportunity, and he's at the right stage in his window. So I know that it was on social media last week about could Bo Levi Mitchell play in the NFL? Yeah, I believe he could. Now, could Bo be a starter? No, but do I think Bo is one of the top 50 quarterbacks in the world? Yeah, I do. But you're not going to take a quarterback that's in his late 20s or early 30s and invest and give him a big opportunity down there. That's just not how that league is wired. So we see players from this league in the CFL all the time. And I know your point was quarterbacks, but my point around Taylor Heineke was timing, right? And it just kind of takes that one guy to believe in you in the right time. Who's the quarterback in with the Rams that finished the season for them? That Sean McVay really
Wolford.
What's that?
John Wolford.
Yeah, John Wolford. Well, all of a sudden, one guy liked him, and it was the right timing, and he was at the right stage in his career. We get guys that get cut from CFL rosters all the time that in August just happen to be available, and an NFL team has a need, and they bring that guy in, and he got cut from a CFL team, right? So much of it is about timing and where you're at in your career. A lot of these CFL guys don't become special until their late 20s and early, maybe 30, and now it's too late, right? So even though when you look at them on the whole, are they better than that NFL rookie today? Probably, but that doesn't mean they fit the NFL profile and that an NFL team wants to invest in them at that time.
My last question for you today, and I would hope that we could maybe get you on here in the future, depending on how all this.
As long as you don't get me fired, we can do it.
Yeah. We will, as long as you don't, call our jerseys moldy, whatever Arash said. My last question for you, honestly, a friend of the show, Rod Pedersen, was on his program yesterday. He feels 60-40, the CFL is not going to play this year, right? Where you're sitting now, how do you feel optimistically or not about them getting through this season?
I think there's a 95% chance the CFL will play this year. And I'd say higher. Just from the conversations I've had in the last couple of days, I think there's absolutely going to be a season. Everybody understands what's at stake. I think they're going to find a way to play.
I hope so. I mean, this has been great for everybody. So we're all steam ahead. So there's certainly no dissenting views from anybody trying to cover this. So.
Well, yeah, it's a fun league, and I missed it last year, and I'm glad, if nothing else, that it's just being talked about right now, and hopefully a few more American fans that were somewhat interested in the XFL before will kind of look at this for a period of time and say, hey, yeah, you know what, maybe this is where we're going, and it's been around a long time, and I think the credibility of the CFL is one of the reasons the XFL wants to get involved with it. So you got to play this year if you want that credibility to remain intact.
Completely agree. Farhan Lalji, thank you for joining us right here on the XFL Markcast. We appreciate it. We're probably going to rename the show the CFL Markcast, the way we keep talking about this thing. So we appreciate your time, and it's been an honor to speak with you about this.
All right, Paul, Reid, thanks so much for having me. I look forward to doing it again.
Thank you so much.
Stay safe. Want to thank Farhan Lalji for coming on. TSN sportscaster extraordinaire. Yep. Let's give him his flowers. Extraordinaire. You can't ever let me have the last word going to break. So get your rant out of the way.
Well, I wanted to make sure people see, because the title of the episode is going to be, this episode is not clickbait.
People are going to stick around for the giveaway, though.
Well,
so
you would be surprised how many subscribers we have and how many actually filled out good odds if you filled out for the giveaway. I'm just going to say, I mean, we have a lot of subscribers, but just not as many did the giveaway as I would have thought. This is my crux of everything this week. I am so mad about this. I am just really upset. I am so tired of, and I know Braden is tired too, CFL Reddit, about the XFL media. Whatever do we cover? Well, now this isn't even XFL media. This is Front Office Sports. This is Michael McCarthy. I guess he and Mike Mitchell are friends, because I have gone back and forth with Mike Mitchell about this ad nauseum this week. Shame on you, Michael McCarthy, for this article. The article is The Rock cooking up an XFL-CFL title game? It says they could have their own Super Bowl. The two leagues have been in negotiations. And it says basically this is the quote. Here's how it could work. A source told Front Office Sports both leagues would play their regular season. There could be an interleague game similar to MLB, and once the respective XFL and CFL champions are crowned, they face off in an interleague play. This could also be an all-star game pitting up. In the 271 word article that this is, the word could is used 5 times.
I could win the lottery tomorrow.
I could win. We could. This makes me so angry, and this went everywhere. The thumbnail of this episode is like 18 different headlines I found out about this week. And it infuriates me because this stuff gets posted. You know, here we are trying to do ding the bell, the Lord's work, figuring out all this, you know, what is real, what is not, what's going on. And then hear this Michael McCarthy. And like I said, shame on you. I tweeted at him. I said, I'm challenging you to an XFL ball scramble. This is ridiculous. My mom texted me. She goes, hey, did you see this? There could be an all-star game between the XFL and CFL. My mom texted me.
Yeah. What's going that far?
I might have to close. Hey, will you vamp for 2 seconds while I close the window? We have a.
So when Reid's mom is paying attention and figuring these things out, it's you know how widespread this is, and it's misinformation. It really is misinformation. Using the word could, I mean, you could say the word could about a lot of things. I could go and drive down the street and get in a car accident. Don't want to. Hopefully that doesn't happen. You could say I could do this about a lot of things. Nuts.
My biggest thing about this, and I have been told this from Mike Mitchell that talks with all the XFL people. Mm-hmm. They have said when it came to this merger that anything is on the table. I understand that. I understand that I'm sure that this was talked about. Oh, hey, we could do an XFL-CFL, whatever game. When you say that everything is on the table, not everything on the table has the same percentage chances of happening, right? So, yeah, I'm sure this was talked about, as was a million other things. And the fact that you decided to write this article and have it posted, I saw it on Fox News, CBS, NBC, Bleacher Report, XFL Newsroom. I saw it on everything this week. And it really makes me mad because what it does is it whittles at the integrity that we have. And the other thing that came out, XFL Newsroom, if you guys were following this week, they had posted, because Braden, friend of the show, he tweeted, I see, in my opinion, the XFL merger is happening and whatever. It doesn't matter, right? Because he deleted it. So what does XFL Newsroom do? They go do a whole story about it. According to CFL Reddit, the merger's happening. And I tweeted Braden, or I messaged him. I go, hey, man, like this. He goes, oh, I'm going to go delete that. Like, that's crazy. But what does that do? It demeans us as what we're trying to do. And I do, we said this before. Paul and I take this very seriously. We both work, Paul works in journalism. I worked in journalism. I really take this seriously. And so when I see stuff like this come out, it infuriates me to no end. And I do say shame on Michael McCarthy and the fact that this got so many clicks where I would give my soul for, a quarter of that for doing the work that we're doing.
Look, if opinions were facts, the Clippers, according to Skip Bayless, would be awarded the NBA title if opinions were facts. The problem is opinions aren't facts. So when you take someone's opinion, like Braden's, who stated it was an opinion, why were you presenting that as facts?
Yeah. The two things, because there was the Braden thing with Newsroom, that the article is still up on their website. Mm-hmm. And then there is this, the Zoe's getting me. And then there was this thing about this championship game. And then the icing on the cake. Renee Montgomery tweets, Renee Montgomery, owner of the Fan Control Football Beast. Maybe the winner of that game could play the FCF champion. And the FCF tweeted, they go, I think you're onto something. And I said, living rent free. And we're going to talk all about living rent free here coming up in just a few minutes with So Rob. The XFL lives so rent free in the Fan Control Football's minds. It's astounding to me. But anyway, I mean, friends of the show, like I told Zach, message me if you have questions about what's real, what's not. I know Steven, another guy, messaged me like, hey, is this real? I go, nope. He goes, all right, moving on. And that's fine. I mean, follow us. I'll tell you what's real and what's not. I don't have any problem calling out anybody, but it really did tick me off.
All right, let's take one more. I think we're going to take one more last break. maybe one after this. But let's try to make this the last break. We're going to come back. Pat McAfee got some things he wants to say about the XFL. Also, a lawsuit update on, I assume, Oliver Luck, maybe. I don't know. It's very vague in here. We'll let Reid tell the story, and that'll come up after the break. Thanks, Reid, for letting me toss to break there. I appreciate that. I'm kidding.
It's good.
So Pat McAfee on his show said
this week, this is going all over the tweets right now. Channing Crowder, we've talked about this guy in the past. He's on the I Am Athlete podcast this week and all this. This clown, I tweeted today. I go, no one share this with Paul, but this is Channing Chowder getting ready for work. And it's him putting on the clown mask because I didn't want to scare you.
Yeah, don't do that. I'm definitely afraid of clowns.
Yeah. So Pat McAfee, a couple days ago, I deleted this clip just to try to save us time. He did a whole thing about, hey, I think the XFL deserves more credit than it did, because Pat McAfee did some, reporting work for the XFL back when it was on. So then you have similar things, what Mr. Chowder has said, or Crowder, I'll call him Chowder. I don't give a F.
Chowder.
What Crowder said, and this is, I'm losing my place here. It is so demeaning. This is a clip, and then we can talk about it.
You said The Rock wasted his goddamn money with the XFL. Channing, everybody wants to know why you hate the XFL. You don't like The Rock. I would like to learn a little bit more about this statement. How do you feel about a developmental league of some sort having to happen at some point, don't you think?
Yeah, the developmental league makes sense, man. I love The Rock to death. I'll raise a baby with The Rock. That's a good-looking man. Watched him when he was The Rock, and now doing all the movies and stuff. Love The Rock, but we've tried it. They've tried this, man. They've tried the XFL, what was the other one, AAF, and all that stuff. It's not top quality football. It really isn't. If you are a top quality player, as y'all know, you're gonna be in the NFL. If you that developmental thing, bro, college is to develop guys. How many guys literally come out the AAF or XFL in the past and went to the league and balled and really changed the league? The concept is great. It's just failed so many times that I really think he's wasting his money.
Taylor freaking Heineke.
It's bad, man. Rod said, and I said the same thing. I tweeted, I go, don't you want your other teammates and players to make money?
What an idiot.
People playing in the XFL have no impact on you. You don't need to watch it, but you don't need to hate on it. There's a lot of people that do want to watch it. I'm sorry, Arash, it might not be the, 100 million that watch the NFL, but there are millions of people that watch it, and let these people play and let them make money. Who cares? It doesn't affect you at all. And when you come on and you laugh, and what made me mad is you had Pat McAfee a couple days earlier. He did this whole, the XFL gives us all the credit. And then here he is chumming it up, laughing. Oh yeah, it's just total dumb. This doesn't even, this is no place for this. I thought, okay, Pat, it's really easy to talk on your own. And then when you have, one of your boys on making fun of it, then you hop on the bandwagon to make fun of it. I don't like that. I don't like, these players deserve as much as anything.
Same energy, Pat. Same energy.
Yeah.
Same energy. If you love the XFL, don't be part of the mob mentality and then, crap on it. I was going to say something else, but crap on it later on.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
Yeah. I know that's the right there. Same energy. If you're going to come on and you're going to talk whatever a couple days earlier and then laugh up with your boy, I don't like that. And that really offended me and things like that. And when that gets, a million views or whatever on Twitter, that demeans what all these players are trying to work towards, and it really ticks me off.
I really think Pat's just pissed because he's no longer the celebrity that's had the best wrestling match. I think that's what's really going on. The wrestling ring since, because he got worked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know it's fake, but let's be honest. That did definitely hurt some of the spots he did. So, yeah, I mean, that's why Pat's pissed.
Yeah. This is the last. I will give Josh Davis all the credit in the world for this, and he doesn't listen to anything in the world. But he won't ever hear this
either.
He's a very interesting man. He reported this week that the XFL has reapplied for the trademark for the love of football. that there was never a statement of use. 5 extensions were granted. And once those ran out, if the league wanted to use it, they needed to refile it. And they did on April 9th. I just thought that was tremendous. I laughed at that because that is their big like hashtag for the love of football. And they never like had used it for anything. And so they had to refile the whole trademark. I wanted the For the Love of Football podcast. That's what I should have gotten on this. I missed it. I was a day late and $1 short, but I just thought that was tremendous that the XFL almost lost the trademark to For the Love of Football.
That's great. Switching gears now, Spring League making their broadcast television debut, kind of, sort of, because they did have some games on last year. But May 8th on Fox Sports, 6 regular season games, as well as a championship match airing on Fox. The season's remaining 18 regular season games will air in primetime on FS1 and FS2. So congrats to Mr. Brian there, Brian Woods.
Yeah, I saw some people ask about that. They go, well, that's not like, why aren't they all on Fox? Be happy with this. We only got 2 games a week back in November. Like, be happy they're all on TV. I don't care what channel they're. I understand. Yes, ideally we want them all on Fox or whatever. Like, I don't care. Be happy they're all on there, and be happy for the players that are wanting the tape and wanting the credibility. Just be happy for that. I would not be questioning anything about anything right now. I would just be happy they're on there.
It was a very vague NGL story. What is that?
Do you want to talk about that? That's the league that went bankrupt this week and all the players got in the fight. Do we want to talk about that?
That was crazy. I mean, there's videos on the internet where I guess the commissioner got into an actual fisticuffs with one of the players. It was crazy. And that kind of started, I don't know, that troll on Twitter that kept coming at me talking about, why don't you do this? You're always talking bad about the FCF. It's like, we're talking bad about the FCF because it's not a good product and because they just kind of set themselves up for it, which let's discuss that right now. You got your jersey. Congratulations on that.
Well, I will just plug this. Yeah, if you want, Josh has been covering that NGL stuff. I saw that come out this week. I just figured the interest for our listeners with all the CFL stuff, I just didn't think it was there for me to do a deep dive in this. Josh Davis is it, and I will tell you, he is not a friend of ours anymore because he's followed us. But I do know that Zach with Gridiron Gallery is doing a whole podcast this week about it, and he's talking with people. So I'm serious, and he does not seem to be a fan of mine right now. I don't know what I did, but it seems like he's doing a really deep dive on this week. So if you want to hear about the NGL stuff, go listen to Zach's podcast this week because it does seem like he's really done. I just don't like to cover stuff half-assed, and if I don't know what's going on, then I don't.
Yeah, and I just didn't. I've been planning the Mellow Man A show. I didn't quite have the bandwidth to read into it a little bit more. So if you want to, I can't believe we're plugging someone else here, especially someone that has an issue with you.
He does. I don't know. I don't know what the issue is.
Did you pee in his gas tank or something? What's the deal?
I don't know. And this was before all the newsroom because I was harsh on newsroom this week. This was before all that, but I don't know. Anyway,
got your jersey.
Yeah. So I got my Wild Aces jersey.
Looks like a dress, kind of.
So here's the deal. It's really long and it's got that split in the back, right? And it's so I texted Jordy about this. I go, hey, friend Jordy from Wild Aces. I go, hey man, because they're the game worn jerseys. They only did one print of all of them, and they shipped some to the fans and some to whatever. I go, what's the deal with this? He goes, well, I think it's so you can get your pads on, and then if you're a bigger lineman, it'll stretch and it'll still fit you. And I go, yeah, but obviously they should make one for consumer, whatever. It's a great jersey. I will say this is probably one of the best things that Fantasy Football did this year is these jerseys. They're phenomenal quality, and I don't mind the length and the split because if you just kind of roll it up a tiny little bit, it hangs it stays in place, and it makes me it really makes me look trim because it really hangs correctly. And so I will say I would have bought other teams of this. I really do like this jersey a lot. And as ugly as the Beast ones is, I wish I would have got a Beast one because I do really think this is a phenomenal jersey. And for all the stuff that we've been given to Sarab and everything, I thought that it was really
giving him some props here. Sarab kind of going at us on Twitter too a little bit. I just, come on, Sarab.
Yeah, XFL lives rent free in Fangrato football sets, and we don't have the time to get into all that. But anyway, Fangrato football getting ready for next season. I haven't seen a lot of tweets about a lot of stuff. We're keeping an eye on Jordy. I asked him. He said he's waiting. Still working, plugging, trying to get. These are the players when that Crowder guy craps on whatever. It's someone like Jordy that's trying to get a position, and to get money. And so it really does. As much as I never really thought about any of this stuff before we started this podcast. Like, and I know that Mark Perry's the same way with News Hub, that like we care about these players and we care about them getting the money. So
that's been our point with the whole CFL coverage when we talk about how much those CFL players are getting. And you heard Farhan talk about those CFL players, their skill set is 90 to 95% as good as the NFL players, and they're getting 5 to 10% what the NFL players make. That is our main motivation, is to make sure the CFL game grows now to where we can get more money for the players. I would love to see that. That's just me.
100%. Last thing before the giveaway, this was kind of like one of those. What's the website? Oh, this is a New York Post story. So
there you go.
Take it for what it is. But they ran more than 30,000 Americans were in a poll conducted by Pipslay. They're, I guess, a polling place. Found nearly half of respondents, 46%, would consider the candidacy of the future president Rock. And he's teased the idea since 2017. In the Young Rock show right now, he is currently running for president. And would you vote for the Rock as president?
No, I wouldn't.
I did see a lot of people.
I think we had too many celebrities run for president, if we're being completely honest.
I did see a lot of people go, well, what would happen to the CFL then if the Rock ran? I go, because the Rock's not going to be running the CFL. The Rock, they're going to hire people. They're going to hire Scott Pioli or someone to run the league. I don't want to hear this like, well, if the Rock runs for president, what's going to happen to the league? So anyway.
Can I just throw something real quick out here?
Yes.
This just came up on my feed. I can't share the screen, so I can't show Reid, but I'll send the picture to Reid, and then he can look at it later. But I will describe that Team Canada's Olympic wear for Tokyo was dropped. And I don't know if you guys are fans with How I Met Your Mother, but one of the characters on How I Met Your Mother, his name is Robin. She was a Canadian pop star. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the Canadian Olympic outfits and look at Robin Scherbatsky's Let's Go to the Mall video.
Robin Sparkles.
Yep. Robin Sparkles. It's clear that maybe Canada owes the creators of How I Met Your Mother some dollars, because it looks like they ripped off Robin Sparkles. Let's go to the mall.
Let's go to the mall. Let's go to the mall. That's great. Hopefully,
do you remember when Ted Mosby had that as his ringtone in the show?
We fell off of him, but it was a good run. Well, that was like 10 seasons. Way too many seasons. The last season was one whole day, and then the very end was like, oh, let's cram 8 years in. Yeah,
why not?
Don't spoil, because Dorothy we haven't watched. I mean, I know the finale, but Dorothy hasn't seen the finale, so no spoilers for the Himium, who the mother is. Okay, have we vamped enough? We gotta go, because then Paul's got to go. He's got his big show debuting tonight on YouTube, the Mellow Man A Show.
Will be last night.
Yeah, it'll be last night, but you can watch the replay, right? It'll be on YouTube. Right?
And Twitch, I believe. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, Paul, it really did a lot of work today getting all this ready. And then Paul's going to go work here. So we have the giveaway. Mm-hmm. There's 7 giveaways, because there's 5 hats. There's the jersey, and then Paul's got the ball. So we're going to start with the hats.
All right.
So winners of the hats, and I'll mail these off. We got them all here. And what I did was everyone commented jersey, hat, ball. I searched, I got everyone's names, and I put them in a randomizer for each one. So there's 5 hats, there's the jersey, and then there's the ball. Winners of the hats. Philip Ramirez, you're getting a hat. Mark Brennan, you're getting a hat. Kev New 360, you're getting a hat. Passenger Escobar, you're getting a hat. And then Ranger King 669, you're all getting hats. So here's the deal. For any winners, don't tweet at me. Please comment on the video and say I won. I'm so excited. Email us, XFL-Markcast@gmail.com. I need your address, and then I'll send the ball one to Paul, because Paul has the ball. I have the rest of the stuff. So XFL-Markcast@gmail.com. Send me an email. But please comment on the video and say you won. And God, if you don't send me a picture when you get this, I'm going to be so mad.
Yep.
Same with the ball. Same with the jersey. Okay. So
and then I will say this too. We're going to do another one for 5,000. When we get to 5,000, we'll do another giveaway. So I know it's a lofty goal to get there. Reid's disappeared for a minute.
Can we do 2,000? 5,000 is a lot.
Let's do 2,500. Let's
2,500.
do 2,500. Okay. We get to 2,500. We'll do another giveaway. I'll acquire something else, and we'll make that happen.
And I tell you, if you don't send me a photo with these, I'm going to be so mad. So mad. Okay, winner of the jersey, the Heineke It's a medium, so it was a smaller entry size because it just, size wise. Jan Dusenberry, you're getting the jersey. So send me the email. Jan, I'm glad that went to him, friend of the show. He's given us, he was famous for the XFL job posting that came up. So thank you so much for that. Paul, drum roll do you have the ball? Is it hidden somewhere?
It's locked away, but I did show it. It's in my house. It's locked away in a safe little area.
It's real.
Anyway,
I am glad for this. Longtime friend of the show. I'm so glad. And again, this all randomizer. I'm glad that this went to someone that truly deserves it. Jenna, you're getting the ball. Jackal, I don't know. I had the username, but you are getting the ball. So send me the email. Jenna's got that. I'm sure if anyone else, congratulations all the winners. I'm sure if anyone else really wanted like a 10% discount on if you wanted to buy some merch and get maybe like a 10% discount, tweet, comment on the video if you want a coupon, and maybe we could do a coupon code or something if there's enough interest.
We'll get some XFL Markcast merchandise. Hopefully it's nothing that costs another digitization fee. No. Thanks, Reid, for that. No. Yeah. So we'll definitely get you into some Markcast merchandise so you can show it off and kind of help us and, get a new shirt.
Yeah. So thank you all. Please subscribe, leave us a review if you haven't. If you get the merch and you haven't left us a review, I'm going to be super mad. So you definitely need to leave us a review. If you won today and you haven't left us.
Did you, are you okay with the Zoe? Is those getting to a little bit?
So I'm going crazy.
It's giving you a little bit of bit of an issue up there in your esophagus area. If you saw how Reid was about these clickbait articles, he's going to be 10 times worse if you don't send photos and promote the things you got on our giveaways. So please keep Reid happy.
I'm going to go crazy. Yeah. So anyway, thank you all. That's all I got today.
All right, cool. We'll see you here next week. Thanks for listening and take it easy.